Hi there, Glocal Citizens. It's Florence Adu, your host for the podcast that inspires a borderless mindset around doing something in the world. Today, my guest is a very interesting individual. He is a music event organizer and an agroforester, which is an interesting mix, we would all say. But we'll learn more about that when he talks a little bit more about his craft. His name is Kofi Debrah, and he is here in Ghana. We're both in Ghana now, but of course remote in the age of Corona. So Kofi, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Florence. Great to be here.
Wonderful. So tell us more about where you're from, where you're local, and what's your craft.
All right. Yeah. So I'm where I'm from. Very good question. So I describe myself as a Londoner. I think culturally, I'd say I'm a Londoner, even though I haven't lived in London full time for 10 years now. And but I'm born, raised, all my formal education has been in London. And so I moved to Ghana 10 years ago. And then I also spent some time in Geneva. I spent 3.5 years of the 10 years I've been out of London in Geneva as well. So, and it became home. It became home as well as Accra, as well as London. So I really feel local in all of those places.
So whereabouts in London are you from?
I'm from Islington, so that's like North London, and I grew up very close to the Arsenal Stadium. So by default, I'm a Gooner, or a Gunner, as they say in my manner.
Right. All right. So are you missing football right about now?
Oh, to be honest, I'm not a diehard supporter, and I usually follow the big games. But culturally, I love it. I love it when they're winning. When they're losing, I feel sad. But I'm not I'm not a diehard supporter. And in these sort of unprecedented times, I'm kind of not missing much, and really just kind of doing my best to try and focus on the here and now, because it's a really kind of critical junction, right? And so I'm just kind of doing my best, just to focus on the here and now, and trying to play my part to help us all get through this.
Okay, cool. So your part in terms of your craft is what?
Okay, so most of my working life is been with music events, and so I've been organizing events for more than 20 years now, and commercial music events. I started at university, and then continued, and then also worked with some major music festivals in the UK. And then I felt I reached where I could in the UK, and then decided to come to Ghana to set up a music festival, and then, but also to give me a proper introduction to Ghana. And from my work in the UK, I realized that music and events are one of the best ways to build your network and meet people. So that's what I've been doing in Ghana. I set up with some partners a music festival in the Western region called Asa Baako, and we just celebrated our 10th edition just last month. And it feels like a whole world away. We did it just before there was any kind of formal cases of COVID-19 in Ghana. So we sort of just scraped through. And I think if there had been an official case, for sure we would have cancelled the event. So we feel really fortunate. We were like one of the last international events in Ghana. And so we feel kind of privileged that we were able to bring all these people from around the world, from within Ghana, to kind of celebrate life, celebrate culture, celebrate music, celebrate the arts. And then now it's complete lockdown. So looking at the pictures, the amazing pictures from the event, and the amazing feedback, it's just really grateful that we're able to put it together.
Right. So Kofi, tell us a little bit more about the background, particularly, so just stay on the music track for a moment. What kind of background inspired you to go into that space? And then also you mentioned that you kind of reached your crest in the UK. How did that happen, and how did you decide that Ghana was where you wanted to come back to? I mean, notwithstanding you're Ghanaian, but how did you decide Ghana and not another part of the world?
Yeah, I think because Ghana's a really special place, and I think there's a reason why you got a lot of international companies setting up shop in Ghana. It's a regional hub. You got a lot of Nigerians here, people from Cote d'Ivoire, all around. And you got when I'm driving up to my some of my other work with the agroforestry work, I'm seeing big trucks from Mali, from Burkina, from Togo, all using Ghana roads. So it's really a kind of like strategic hub and a really good place to set up shop. And so although I grew up in London, I grew up in a Ghanaian house in London. There was always soup in the fridge. We ate fufu maybe 2-3 times a week. We had all the foods. My mom used to stink up the house when she's making banku. And
Right.
so I had this kind of strong Ghanaian identity, or UK Ghanaian identity. Let me make it more specific, because it's very different from a Ghanaian identity. And so I always kind of when I matured, when I was around 18, I sort of really fell in love with Ghana, and kind of realized from a young age the kind of its strategic importance. And I kind of also realized, even though there's a lot of wealth and a lot of prosperity and a lot of security in the West, in the conceptual West, I realized back then it wasn't permanent. And I realized as well, through kind of the prejudice and the institutional racism that I was experiencing directly and indirectly, that I couldn't stay there I just couldn't stay there. And I knew from quite a young age, thanks also to my dad, who's encouraged me to read up about Ghana history and Pan-African history and the likes of Nkrumah and things and such figures, that I kind of had this calling from a young age. And sort of as I kind of matured and graduated from university and went into the working world and kind of experienced all of those kind of setbacks in my mind, I was like, you know what, I gotta get out of here because it's just not healthy. I just felt it just wasn't healthy for me. And it also, even I had allergies and intolerances and all of these things. But when I came to Ghana, my body just felt so good. And
Wow.
with the fresh food, and I just always felt good when I came to Ghana. Up until I came to live here, and then I realized some of the realities. But
Right.
So it's kind of, I just knew from a young age, and one of my festivals, that I'd come back, and I kind of delayed it, and for good reason. I just think I wasn't mature enough, and then I kind of made the jump when I was 30. I'm 40 now, and I think it was a nice age to come to Ghana then. I think if I did it before on my own, like the way I did, I probably would have just ran back to the UK and then not come back at all. So yeah, I don't know if did I answer that the question. And
yeah. So then on the music side, how did you find yourself in music?
It's actually I've got two older sisters, and they both went. They're about 5 years apart, and they both went out with DJs. So when I was 7, 8, my older sister went out with a DJ, and he Ghanaian, and he was a drum and bass and jungle music DJ. It was really popular music in the UK at the time. And so I just always used to hear about the stories, and when I used to go around to their house, meet other DJs and promoters, and I was just always fascinated by those sorts of events where that brought loads of different people together. And then a few years later, my middle sister also went out with a DJ, also Ghanaian, and he was a hip hop DJ. And there I was a little bit older, so I could, when I was like 16, I used to go to some of the events, guest list, and I met some like big hip hop artists, British and American, and was backstage, and it was really exciting. And I
Okay.
tried DJing, and wasn't so great at it, but I just loved the events. The event side of it. So I just more stuck
Right.
to that to that side, and
Okay.
I was just much more interested in the behind the scenes work and kind of the quiet person behind the scenes, bringing it all together. And that person coming to enjoy themselves and not knowing who the kind of main person is, and I kind of like to be that person. And yeah, so that was it. And then I went to university, and then I became president of the African and Caribbean Society of my university in the UK, and we had a carnival event. There was an annual carnival, and at the time it'd been running for 10 years. This was a carnival at the university organized by the
Okay.
African
Got
and
it.
Caribbean Society. Yeah. And so coming from London, I was like, no, we need to make this bigger and better. And so I then collaborated with some other societies within the university, and we put on a huge event, biggest the university had ever seen, and it sold out, and it was amazing. And I brought all these top DJs that I knew from London to come and play at the event. It was amazing. So then I graduated, and then I volunteered with the Notting Hill Carnival. I think then after a year, I started getting consultancy work with like various organizations around carnival work. And then, I was doing that, and then organizing my own events on the side. And then I started working at music venues in Notting Hill that were connected to the carnival, and also still organizing my own events throughout. And then I was flown to Trinidad one year to like research and develop the carnival there and create more links to the UK. And I think that was in 2007. And then there, I was like, it felt like I was in Ghana. I got off the plane. I was like in the
Right.
airport terminal waiting for my pickup. And it was like, I recognize this place. Like, this feels very, like normal to me. It wasn't like I was in the Caribbean. It's like, I'm in Ghana. There's no kind of
Mm-hmm.
difference. And then went out to where I was staying, and it just felt so familiar to me. And it was really interesting because then where I was staying closer to the center of town, nobody believed that I was from Ghana. Like,
Of
it
course.
was so it was so weird. It was so surreal. It was like, guys, we're the same. Like, of course, because
Yeah.
yeah, so it was really, really surreal. And then the carnival itself. Obviously, there's the Notting Hill Carnival, but it was a bit deeper there in the Caribbean because it was closer to more Africa. I was like,
Right.
it just would work so well in Ghana. And then I could see some of the traditions, they wave their handkerchiefs in the air. I mean, they've taken it to
Yeah.
another level. They're taking it to another level. We don't wave them how they do.
Yeah.
You can see it's from this region. And it just further kind of instilled my need to come to Ghana to do something. And then 2 years later, I left the UK, and then I packed everything up and then came to Ghana. And really to develop the kind of music and arts industry, or do my part to help develop the music and arts industry here, because I realized firsthand the power of music tourism and the power of the arts to transform economies and transform lives. And so that's what I came to Ghana to do. And I've realized that I'm really passionate about rural economic development, about getting out of the city. I love these sort of like destination festivals,
Mm.
and so that's where we're. So one of the reasons why we chose to do the festival in the Western region. We wanted to have something outside of Accra and help to develop a region outside of Accra, and the Western region is got a long history of music, and a lot of the great artists are from the Western region. The Jedubile Ambele, Papa Yankson, I believe, is from Western region. Rob, he was a famous 70s singer. And, there's a number of other artists from the Western region and from and from the Central region. That part of Ghana is really a special place.
So tell us, so the festival is called Asa Baako. And so tell us, what does Asa Baako mean and how did you go about, because, doing a festival in a place like Ghana, we have our certain way of celebrating in parties, but this was an unprecedented at the time when you started and even now. So tell us about the genesis of the name and how you actually operationalized it to be still happening 10 years later.
We put a call out to our network of musicians on to help us come up with a name. And then sort of we gave them a brief that we wanted it to be like a name of like unity and sort of like coming together. And so the name Asa Baako translates to one dance, and just really just symbolizing unity in ourselves and unity through rhythm. And so that's how we came up with the name. And actually Mensa, top Ghanaian musician, came up with the name.
Okay. And he's part of the duo. He's a solo artist, but he's also the fucking boys, right?
Yes, FOKN.
FOKN, yes, exactly. Right, I have to qualify that. Okay, right. And so beyond the music, you also do something for the community. So tell us more. You're passionate about it. So tell us more about some of the community impacts that you've been able to implement as part of it.
Yeah. We work with the women's group in Buzwa. We soap making workshops and like selling the soap to the tourists. There's beach cleanups. We've trained up event organizers who've gone on to do their own events. We've helped to provide a platform for emerging artists, gone on to really great things. The one that we really like to say is like Kofi Kinata. He's now a national superstar. One of his first shows was at Asa Baako.
Okay.
And I think he met one of his managers through the event. And, roles are reversed now. We're like, Kofi, when are you coming back on stage now? Before he was begging us. And now we're chasing him to come on our stage. And so he's one of the examples. There's Ayusem as well, who's really making great waves. And so, so that's kind of what our mission is. And in that respect, we're really fulfilling it. We feel we could do a lot better. But that's what we've contributed. And we also bring in much needed cash to the economy.
Yeah.
And the Asa Baako is like one of the biggest revenue earner for a lot of people within the community. And the way we've designed the festival is that it's not just the hotels that benefit. It's the people selling pure water. It's the people selling oranges. All of it all goes up for them. So it's really amazing how we've embedded ourselves into the community.
Nice.
And become a key fixture in the Western region events calendar.
Nice. That's lovely. So speaking of regions and conversations, this is when I ask my guests about their local speak. So I want to know, is there a word or phrase or saying that is a meaningful part of your local experience, and why or how you came to value it as Glocal speak?
Oh, wow. Can you give me some examples? Like how...
Okay, so I get a lot of chale igopi, so that's one, So you're a Glocal speak.
Funny enough, that's it. It's like, hey, Charlie. That's the first thing that came to mind.
Okay, right. So put yours in context. Like how do you see chale as your Glocal speak?
I think no, it's not just Charlie. It's like, hey, Charlie. It's like it can mean so many different things, like in terms of how you express it. So there's hey Charlie, like hey, what's up, and there's hey Charlie, no, like no, it's like it comes as a shock. So it's like one of those words. I can't remember the word. It can mean so many things, and just in terms of how you express and say it. And I think that sums up sort of like my experience in Ghana in terms of like that one thing can mean so many different things.
Oh, right. So, and I like that you put it that way because everyone who has described it in a different way. So yeah, as it, however it means to you.
Okay.
And so the funny thing is that everyone understands it as well. So no matter what context, people
Mm,
understand it, what it's supposed to be.
yeah.
So yeah, I like that term.
But actually, I want to add something more to it as well. Like Chale is becoming an international word, the same way brethren, that which from the from the Jamaican context has become global. Chale now, a lot of my international friends in the UK say Chale. You know, they refer to me. They, hey, what's up, Chale? You know, when they when they get in
Really?
touch.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay. So
yeah.
it transcends, right? So it's now not just
It
global, it's
transcends.
global.
Yeah, yeah.
Got it.
It transcends. It really is.
Nice. So let's take a pivot and talk a little bit about you, the agroforester. So I get that a lot of your interest has been in rural and development and economic empowerment. So I'm guessing that was part of what incentivized you
Yeah.
to go into that space. So tell us more about that work
Yes.
and how you came to take on
Yeah.
that role.
Yeah. I've always I've been interested in the environment and rural economic development, and I think it's from my granddad because when I was a kid, I used to visit his cocoa farms,
Mm.
and we used to travel for hours from Kumasi to his farms in the Western region or Brongahafo region. And I just loved the journey, and I love being there, and I love eating the fresh consomme
Mm.
stew with apim and just a little bit of palm oil, and it was just a heavenly, heavenly food out there,
Yeah.
fresh food, all organic back then. And so I just always loved that experience. And then I forgot about it as I grew older. And then somehow just emerged in working in agriculture or agroforestry, encouraging farmers to farm with trees, which helps the environment, helps protect the soil, gives them extra income,
Mhm.
all of these bonuses. And, also consulting, and then, sort of struggled within that space because it wasn't my main thing that I studied or had, working experience in, and just really put my all into it and somehow had the festival going on as well. And it was a real big challenge. Then all of a sudden I was sort of established within that space, and then getting paid to consult for other projects, which was really amazing, and yes, it's been really good within that space, and I'm really grateful for the knowledge I've built up and the ability to also communicate between different worlds within agroforestry. So, for instance, being able to understand it from the farmer level and actually being on ground and having the realities of trying to set up my own agroforestry systems and struggling and learning through that process, setting up a processing factory so we could add value to the cassava that we farm, working with export contracts and also getting international funding and like being able to kind of move between those different worlds is really it really feels I feel really privileged to be able to do that. And I've been working in that space for 4 years now,
Okay.
like on ground for 4 years, and I did sort of like 2 years of research, and sort of like looking back, I'm thinking, wow, oh my goodness, is that what a journey it's been. Like, how did I do it?
Yeah.
So, and what was I thinking when I started it?
Right.
But really fulfilling work, and I really enjoy being out on the ground, and I'm doing a lot of office work and report writing and emails and stuff. But I really love getting out onto the field, and I was on the field a few days ago, actually consulting on a project in the north. So yes, it's really really good.
So can I take a step into the actual process, right? So two things, and my listeners, because a lot of what I like to kind of communicate is how you're able, because you mentioned you're running the festival and doing this, and then how actually were you feeding yourself? So what kind of landing did you have to be able to, or some kind of like structure that allowed you to be able to sustain yourself, number one? Or let's go with that first, then I have another one.
Yeah. So I've been really fortunate. Another work I do, I'm a virtual learning consultant. And what that means, I work for an American company, and I've been working with them for 5 years now. And I help deliver training programs online. And so mainly to UN, so mostly to FAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization, and WFP, the World Food Program. And basically, the company I work for develops training programs. We call them learning journeys for their staff around the world. And so what we help them do is meet in these virtual spaces and interact with each other, and learn from each other. So we invite guest speakers within WFP to talk about, for example, bumps and balances is one of the programs, on how they, like we talk about how in all their work there's going to be bumps, but how do you balance it? And then it's a lot of it is around that sort of stuff. And somehow universal coincidence is that work actually relates to my sort of on the ground work in Ghana.
Right.
So that's it's through that work actually I've been able to kind of feed myself and sustain myself, because in the very early stages I wasn't being paid, from the agroforestry work, at all. And also because I did so much research into agroforestry, I got lucky and I met a major landowner through the festival actually. And he'd been trying to, right? And he'd been trying to set up a major reforestation project over 50,000 hectares. It's like the size of London and New York.
Wow.
And he'd been trying for 10 years to set it up. And I met him and we just got talking. We were actually talking about the festival. And he's like, "Oh, what else do you do?" I was like, "Oh, I'm into agroforestry. It's been doing it for a couple of years and all of this stuff." And then he's asking me questions. Little did I know that he's got this project that he's got me in mind for. And so then he starts talking about his project, and my eyes are lighting up. And I'm like, "Oh my God, this is like a dream project." It's on cocoa agroforestry, and I did a little bit of research into it already, and I'd made some contacts within that space. So this project he'd been trying to get off for 10 years, within 6 months, I had it up and running and we're planting on the field. And he also had another big piece of land, a coconut plantation, which I helped him to get up and running as well.
Wow.
So I just, it's through kind of that's kind of how I was able to sustain myself. And to be honest, my own project, I put it on the back burner because I was like, you know what, I'm getting paid
Yeah.
and I'm learning at the same time. Yeah. So let me take a year off from my own project and let me learn on the job and get paid, because I can't finance myself on my own project. And then once I kind of helped get those projects up and running, and I was able to sustain myself and get that knowledge, I then went back to my own project and set that up. And I've also been fortunate to get some international funding as well for my work. So this is sort of that's how I've been able to sustain myself.
What is your specific project?
So we're creating an agroforestry buffer zone around a national reserve. And I have a little piece of land on the edge of this reserve. And so I'm partnered with 2 other organizations also within that landscape. And so we're slowly chipping away at creating kind of a growing system that farmers can adopt, increase their yields, and then we can also help them gain access to market. And so we've been chipping away for a while, and it still feels early days. And so that's in the simplified version, that's what we're doing. And if it is an opportunity, I can share a link with you. So maybe if any of the listeners
we'll put that in the show notes. Absolutely.
More details about
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So now I move into my mindset hack question. And so this is when I ask my guests, favorite or innovative mindset hack. that you can imagine, that you know of, or one that you already practice?
Mine is calm. I think calm is a superpower. Yeah.
Okay.
Calm is a superpower because when things are going, there's a lot of uncertainty right now. There's a lot of turbulence in the world and there's a lot of disruption. And we've got to stay calm. We must stay calm in this time. We can't stay calm. I'm not saying we're going to stay calm every single minute and second, but the vast majority of that, 99% of the time, we must stay calm because, when we get angry, when we get frustrated, it affects our immune system.
Exactly.
When we're stressed about something, when we're stressed about things we have no control over, it weakens our immune system.
Exactly.
And the thing is, I've been stressed over Christmas. I had way too much going on and I got sick. I was out of action for 2 weeks. And that was like my warning. It was like my pre-COVID warning. It was like, you gotta take care of yourself. You gotta take care of yourself. You gotta take care of yourself. You're letting all these things get to you. So then I started practicing more yoga and meditation, and that really, really helped me. But the main thing I think that's helped me even throughout my whole experience in Ghana is being calm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when you're calm, you still have access to your brain, but when you're stressed, you're only focusing on the stress. So that's one hack.
So true. Wonderful. That's a great one. So Kofi, we're at the end of our conversation. This has been so insightful. I have to admit, I have farming aspirations. So I too came to Ghana with the idea that eventually I become a farmer. So I have land, I have ideas.
Oh, cool.
I love to talk to farmers and just kind of get my mind around the whole. And I also love going to the land. So our land is just very virgin now. It used to be a palm forest. But I think that we need people, young people, and I guess all people, particularly young people who keep coming to the city to actually love and learn the land. Because, this crisis right now teaches us something very important, is that if we don't understand our land, we are going to have problems. So I'm excited for the link that you have to share.
Definitely.
And I'm excited just to continue the dialogue. So before we go, I always like to ask my guests something that kind of digs into the deeper part of their mind or their leisure. So what exactly are you watching these days? Are you a watcher, a reader, or a listener?
Actually, I'm more of a watcher these days. So I've been watching a lot of documentaries on boring stuff, actually, on infrastructure, on like how societies collapsed. Or how societies and nations emerged, because I studied social anthropology, so I've always been fascinated by humans and the institutions that they the institutions that they build. So that's what I've been watching, and then how on the link between agriculture and societal development. So a lot of that's and in between, a lot of stuff about COVID.
Right.
So I've been sort of educating myself on those things.
Yeah, that's definitely not boring. It's very relevant. Yeah. I'm also a nerd. I like watching those things too. And I'll pick up some titles for you so that we can also add that to the show notes.
Okay, great.
So, any last words for our guests?
Stay positive, stay healthy. If you're not, read up about it. Stay calm. And reach out to people. And I'm saying this to myself too. Reach out to people. If you're struggling with something, reach out. And like, now is the time for community. If there was ever a time for community and strengthening community, it's right now. So I also thank you, Florence, for reaching out to me and giving me this opportunity to share my life. And really grateful to be able to do that. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for your words. It's been awesome. The reach out is so important. Really, people, love up your loved ones. I can't say it more. I love them up, because and that doesn't mean you have to be there. Call them, call them. Just be there. So on that, I want to say Thanks again for joining us for Glocal Citizens. You can catch us each and every week, Tuesdays, on glocalcitizenspod.com, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and wherever you found your podcast. Please subscribe, please comment. And until next time, bye for now.